Our message this morning is do it anyway. So what we're talking about is doing what you know is in the best interest, the highest good, doing that anyway. No matter what excuses our mind can conjure up for us, that we provide for ourselves to not do it anyway. We're talking about doing it anyway. Every thought, every action that is of the highest good. Now, these words, do it anyway, are true both in activity, in form, in effect, as well as they are true within our thoughts. When we have thoughts that create new thoughts, that also is a do it anyway. Think what you know that you should. So let's look at a couple examples. So I may think that I should buy the name brand deodorant instead of the store brand. But then again, it costs more, so I buy the store brand. Now, I invite you to play along with me here. Think of a time when you bought the cheap one, and that then you suffered the consequences of your actions, your decision. Most of us have probably done that. I know in conversations we hear people talk about what they won't buy in store brand. They have to have the real brand. So in actuality, when it doesn't work, when the deodorant doesn't work, I find myself sweaty and stinky. So I didn't really save money in the long run because now I have to go back and buy a deodorant that's actually going to work. I bet a lot of us can relate to situations, probably not deodorant, although maybe. So the idea is that I could have just as easily bought it anyway, despite what I'm perceiving as the barrier in the cost, do it anyway. Why? Because we know it's the highest best for us. So let's look at another example. Something is going on. That example is form. Our thought created form and effect for us. Let's look at how it works within our own mind. So let's say that something is going on around me that upsets me. It bothers me. So again, try it out with me. Think of something that has happened in your life. And if you have nothing that's ever bothered you, good for you. Let me know how you've accomplished that. But if you do happen to have something, I invite you to bring it to mind. Now your story might not be exactly like I would think it, but similar, I bet. I begin collecting all the responses or the reasons. This situation is just plain wrong. I spend lengths of time spinning those ideas around in my mind, allowing them to take up valuable space and time within my own mind. Therefore, transforming my mood, my posture, my attitude. Now, I know better than that, and I might even be able to tell you that I shouldn't waste my time thinking about this when there's so much good in my life, or when I can't change it anyway, no matter how much I think about it. But I'm not willing to move on. I'm not willing to replace the negativity with positive thoughts, even though I know the positive is what I desire. I don't think it anyway. I don't do it anyway. I do not ever come out of these scenarios winning. In either of these cases, whether it's thought to effect or thought to another effect of thought, in either of them, I could have said, let me do it anyway. Let me look beyond apparent boundaries. Let me think the positive idea and take the action that does win for me. Think the idea that moves you into success in achieving your desired outcome. So Ernest Holmes, our founder, writes, "The man who can control his thought can have and do what he wishes to have and to do. Everything is his for the asking." Since I really want to repeat that statement, I'm going to put it in the feminine this time. The woman who can control her thoughts can have and do whatever she wishes to have and to do. Everything is hers for the asking. And by asking, he means the realization of what you want and the receptivity to allow it in, to see beyond apparent barriers. Sometimes we find all kinds of excuses which appear as a barrier to our good. But if we truly want what we say we want, and it does no harm to yourself or to others, then you must control your thought to elevate your thinking to attain success. Do it anyway. Think it anyway.
I think most of us are in agreement that the people of the world today don't seem to be playing very well together. And there are a lot of opinions about who's responsible and what changes need to be made and who should be making those changes. And, you know, I, as usual, don't know who they are, but I do know that they are the problem and they should change it. And as Deborah was saying a little bit, she used that word excuses a few times. I think they quite often have a lot of excuses why they don't fix everything. And in Science of Mind, we don't look at things that way. In Science of Mind, we take personal responsibility for the conditions we experience. We say, change your thinking, change your life. And let me emphasize a little, change your thinking, change your life. That means when I change my thinking, I change my life, and I change my world. Our teaching does not state that we are responsible for the state of the world unless we are holding consciousness that manifests in a derogatory manner towards the rest of the world. We don't assume responsibility for other people's lives, although we know we are all one in the one life. I don't know, whatever I do to myself, I do to those around me and to the world in general. I know what I do to others, I also do to myself, but we're all interconnected in this thing called life. We can take care of each other by remembering to be the change we wish to be in the world. I clean up my little corner of the world, and that affects all of life. It seems to be a huge task to fix the world, but we must do it anyway. There's a great saying, that miracles start to happen when you give as much energy to your dreams as you do to your fears. In Science of Mind, we say we're holding consciousness for that which we desire in life, and releasing all the fears and negative energy that into the nothingness from which it came. And quite often it seems impossible to make that change, but we need to do it anyway. I came across this concept this week and it was quite fascinating. If we all are experiencing a collective fear, perhaps the call to all of us is to do it anyway as a society. Certainly each of us can make an individual demonstrative difference in creating a world that works for everyone. So perhaps we, all of us, can work together to bring about a collective life that works for everyone and everything. Thich Nhat Hanh, the Vietnamese Buddhist teacher, said this: "It is possible that the next Buddha will not take the form of an individual. The next Buddha will take the form of a community practicing understanding and loving kindness, a community practicing mindful thinking." Isn't that interesting? The next Buddha will be a community. And hey, we are a community. Could we be the next Buddha? What's interesting is that you don't have to be Buddhist to be a Buddha. I love that about Buddhism. It often seems nearly impossible to unify all the disparate energies in our environment. We have to do it anyway.
Absolutely. So sometimes we need to conjure up an idea within our own mind to grab a buy-in for ourselves, from ourselves. Often it must be a new idea, as the one we've been using just hasn't been working. There are certain ideas that we can lean into to achieve our goals in life. So I'm going to give a personal example, something that for years and years, and I'm sure some of you can remember me talking about this, and maybe at the time I was doing it or talking about it, one or the other, but still not grabbing it enough to do it faithfully, to do it habitually. And the word is exercise. Can anyone relate? So for me, I realized that I needed to look around myself a little bit at what habit I had created. And what I realized in a nutshell is that at night I would say, well, tomorrow's my day. Tomorrow's the day I'm going to exercise and I'm going to feel really good and I'm going to keep up that habit day after day. And the next morning would come and sure enough, I would have other things to do. Or I just wouldn't have slept very well that night. I was a little tired, or whatever excuse I was making up not to exercise. So I'd do it a little later. And then later became the evening again, where I'd say, well, I'll do it tomorrow. Well, maybe yours is an exercise, but whatever it is, we tend to do that to ourselves. And so I knew I needed to get to my do it anyway point. And I also knew that just sitting around and praying about it was not going to make it happen. Prayer does, however, lead us to divine right direction. It leads us into a knowing of a new idea for us. So here's how that led me into a definite idea, one I've been doing for a while now. I didn't talk about this the first week that it was happening because I wasn't quite trusting myself. I was trusting God, but I wasn't quite trusting myself. I had to come up with a mental likeness to the desired outcome. We all have to do that. Whenever we are looking to accomplish something, we need a mental likeness within our own mind of that desired outcome. And the word exercise was not working for me. What I found was, when I truly looked at what did I want, and all these years I've been saying to exercise. Who wants to exercise? Who wants to put that much effort into something that you're standing in place or just moving your body around? But what I did want, as I got my new idea, was a healthy body. And I thought, why couldn't this have happened 30 years ago? Why didn't I realize that? Well, this was the time. It's in God's time, not our time, and there is no time in God. So in treatment, we teach ourselves that we have to convince ourselves. Well, I didn't have any convincing to have to do when I realized that what I really wanted was a healthy body. There were just so many reasons to support it and lift it up. I want to be around with my children. I want to be around when I have grandchildren. I want to watch them grow. I want to travel with my husband. I want to be around with my spiritual family. I want these things. Well, you need a healthy body. So that new idea, I have a healthy body. I thought to myself, what can I buy into within that idea to start the process that I will be willing to commit to doing? And for me, 2 buy-ins came to me in prayer. The first one was, do you want to be healthy? Well, yeah, obviously. Who's going to say no to that question? I hope no one. The second buy-in for me was to give myself permission from the powers that be to just do a few things, to not have to do the whole power workout, but to just be willing to stand up and stretch a little bit. Oh, and then what I found was that stretching a little bit, I felt a little better. It felt good to stretch all those joints and muscles. Well, I'll do a little more, a few more things. So I now have a collection of things I can do that I am doing daily. I could wrap my mind around doing just a few things that turned into more. And soon the adrenaline is pumping and I'm motivated to do more. And on the days when I think I just don't want to do it, I now can think, do what? Be healthy? You don't want to be healthy? Well, of course I do. Then it brings humor, it brings laughter. Okay, well just stand up and do one stretch. Give me one today. Okay. There you go, I just stretched my wrist. Well, if I did my wrists, I might as well do my ankles, right? And it just progresses. Now this isn't just about me, and it isn't just about healthy bodies. We each have our things, but it is sitting in prayer, realizing our answer, our divine right direction to attain that which we desire. It's the idea of retraining our brain to do it anyway, to think the thought that moves us into the required action for the ultimate desire. Remember this teaching, the way of law, the way of life is God working through you as you, the one who controls your thoughts. So how about you? What agreement could you buy into or make with yourself about your life to inspire and motivate you to activate your best life, your best idea in whichever arena you are playing and desiring change? Where do you need to place your, I'm going to do it anyway?
I quite often quote John Lennon because I think he said some fascinating things. You know, John Lennon was quite a science of mind kind of guy. And John Lennon always appeared confident on stage and in life. And many of you may not know this, but he suffered from a deep lack of self-esteem. He actually wrote the song Help. Remember that? Help, I need somebody. As a literal cry for help. The sudden fame of the Beatles left him in a serious state of personal crisis because he never felt worthy of all the success and didn't know what to do with it. He said of himself, I was fat and depressed and I was crying out for help. The good thing is, he did it anyway. The insecurity and low self-esteem caused him to practice constantly and continuously seek out new forms of expression for the band. He constantly challenged himself to do better and to be better. Now, I don't know about you, but the Beatles made quite an impression on my life, and I think they did in most of the world as well. And John Lennon was once asked in an interview if he thought Ringo Starr was the best drummer in the world. He said, Ringo isn't even the best drummer in the Beatles. But Ringo played anyway, and if he hadn't, do you think the Beatles would have been the same? Do you think they would have had the same impression on the world? Here's another musician, Ludwig van Beethoven. You may have heard his name before. He lived a life of turmoil, and music composition was not easy for him. He would write and rewrite, then tear it up and throw it on the floor to start all over and write again. And about halfway through his career, he realized he was going deaf. But he continued to write music. He continued to do it anyway. He even had to saw off the legs of his piano so he could feel the vibrations in the floorboards. The harpsichord and the piano forte at the time were the standard keyboards, but he played so strongly that the delicate mechanisms kept falling apart. So he designed an instrument with a cast iron frame and hammers that hit the strings that could sustain his force and produce the sounds that he desired, the sounds he imagined. His life challenges necessitated the design of the piano we know today. Maybe not that piano, but that one over there, for sure. This is all because he faced difficulty and did it anyway. So what challenges can you overcome to make this world a better place?
Our founder, Ernest Holmes, wrote this: "Nothing ever happens by chance. Law governs all life, and all people come under that law. But that law, as far as we are concerned, we ourselves set in motion. And we do this through the power of our thought." Each one of us is making our own world. We should only think thoughts that we wish to see manifest. As we contemplate who and what we permit in our space, we face decisions as to how we want our world to be. If you are unsure about what it is you're thinking about, take a look around yourself and you will know. Don't shy away from changes that you must take within your own thinking to take control and recreate your heaven on earth. Both of the people in David's descriptions came up with new ideas to be creative, to attain their goal. They did it anyway. The truth is that not one of us human beings can think two kinds of thought and get one result. It doesn't work that way. You know what to do, so hop to it. Take control of your thoughts, and when you find it difficult to stay in a heavenly state of consciousness, do it anyway. You'll love the results, and so it is.
So it is.